go with another episode of the Club Dub podcast presented by SportsMockery.com. Been a couple weeks, guys. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Got a lot of people on Twitter starting out. It's a new regime, new breath of fresh air, hopefully at Halisol. We're going to go over who this team is going to hire. We're getting really close. We're starting to hear some rumblings of a couple guys emerging themselves, setting themselves apart. We didn't have a show. I didn't really want to recap that Vikings game. I'm gonna blame it on that. I didn't really want to talk about it. I've been over this regime. The Nagy pace era is over. I was over it after the Ravens loss, and I think a lot of us that's where we ended up. And now it's kind of an exciting time because for once, the press conference with McCaskey was miserable. Yes, but this list of candidates they have is really promising. We're gonna go over that tonight. But again, welcome into the Club Dub podcast, Eric Drew. How are you guys doing? It's been a couple of weeks since we've chatted on here. What's new? What's going on in your lives? We good?
Yeah, I'm doing just fine, staying busy with what they're trying to figure out at this whole head coach GM thing. The sheer list of candidates is pretty enormous and much bigger than any I can remember them ever doing in their previous searches. So, it's pretty exciting that they're willing to just meet with as many guys as possible, gather information, see if they can, form an idea of what they're looking for. And, I imagine once these first round of interviews are over, the list is going to shrink considerably to maybe 3 or 4 guys that they're really interested in, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, been well, guys. I, like you, Kevin, was not interested in recapping that Vikings game.
We should have. For our fans, we should have, but sorry, guys. I just couldn't do it. I was so
didn't want to waste any more energy and breath on that, but we're in a new spot. It looks like things are going well in terms of what they're doing, whom they're talking to, and seemingly getting some praise from NFL analysts and things like that, which is pretty new for them. So good for them, and glad to see they're actually committed to a nice, drawn out, lengthy, thorough process.
No question. I mean, Eric, right in your background, we see Rick Smith, who I think when we're looking at guys who are going to be the general manager of this team, George McCaskey made it clear he's not interested in a VP football operations. The general manager is going to, and now instead of reporting to Ted Phillips, will report to George McCaskey. That was the biggest change that came out of the press conference. Everything else was same old Bears. That's not going to change. I don't know anybody who went to that press conference hoping something would change. You were bound to get upset and angry on Twitter, and we saw a lot of that. But listen, they are going out and they're going to get someone with experience. Thank God. It just seems like the guys they're interviewing all have, not all of them, but most of them, the ones that we've heard the most out of, have experience. They have mutual interest in this position. Some guys like Ed Dodds didn't want to interview for other jobs in previous years, now want this job. They're going to get somebody good for that GM position. It just seems like it's leading toward Rick Smith is I've only heard him mentioned in Bears talks, no other team. So maybe a couple rumblings with the Raiders, but overall, I think that he's got to be their best option at this point. He's my choice. But have you heard anything else of like Rick Smith being mentioned with other teams? Because this would be a hell of a candidate for them to land. I mean, it'd be pretty crazy.
Surprisingly, no, I haven't heard Rick Smith's name mentioned with other teams. All I know is the Bears are interested in him and he's interested in the Bears. So it goes both ways, which is always encouraging. You like to hear stuff like that. I mean, I'm shocked Smith isn't getting more attention considering the work he did down in Houston, which I consider to be, top notch, winning 4 division titles with a team that had to go against Peyton Manning for a period there. And then Andrew Luck. I mean, that's not easy considering Houston never really got their quarterback position solved until 2017, which turns out to be Rick Smith's last first-round draft pick, which if you're going to go out on one, that's a hell of a way to do it. Unfortunately, What happened with his wife forced him to step away from Houston, and he was never able to reap the rewards of that pick. So, but I feel his eye for talent is undeniable. He knows how to run an organization. He did so for a decade. If you're looking for a guy that is qualified, you're not going to find anybody better.
No doubt. I mean, it's sad what happened to his, him and his family, his wife, of course, but forced him to step away. And it's a little bit surprising he hasn't been able to break back into the league since. But look, the Bears and whoever else decides to talk to him would be lucky to hire him. I mean, clearly excellent eye for talent. You look at the team that they built, back in the days. J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. I think Whitney Merciless was a draft pick of theirs as well. Connor Barwin. I mean, they found talent in various places in the draft and built a solid team. You looked at undrafted free agency. They had Arian Foster. They had AJ Boye.
I was going to say Arian Foster was a big one in that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly able to find talent everywhere. So, a very good candidate. He's actually my GM candidate number 2. I like Ed Dodds number 1, but still, I mean, Smith would be a hell of a hire. And it's a little bit surprising that his name isn't associated with more teams.
They haven't officially interviewed him yet, though, have they? That this is not something that we've seen. So that's the interesting part.
He seems to be coming up later in the process, which you have to find interesting because Pace was last in the process back in 2015, which tells you that the Bears tend to save their preferred candidates until last to, sort of set things up. But we can't say that for certain, obviously. But it's interesting that they're sort of saving him until the later part of the process. Seeing maybe if some of the guys they don't know a lot about make a good impression, which it sounds like a couple of them have. So they'll want to bring them back for second interviews and whatnot. But, Smith's going to get his interview, but it might not be until later this week.
Yeah, just looking at the list of people that we've heard multiple strong source reporting from who are going to get interviews, hopefully with this team. Glenn Cook, per the Bears blog, and Jeff Hughes, who's really proven to have some great sources over the last couple of weeks, has shown that he had a strong interview. Ed Dodds, Jeff Ireland, who's got strong ties to the Bears organization. Obviously, everyone's going off that happy, fun story that he was a ball boy back for the Bears, but this guy has an eye for talent. I mean, he's been around a blue blood organization in the Saints for a long time. I know a lot of the guys who are currently in the Bears organization. We've seen Khalil Mack talk about this now. We've seen most recently today, it was Tariq Cohen, who we don't know if he's going to be on the team next year, but voicing their appraise for Champ Kelly, who is currently the assistant general manager. We'll see if he gets a shot. Personally, I'm not in for that. I'm not around the team, so my opinion is just my opinion. I want an outsourced guy from a blue blood organization that has proven to draft well. Not saying Champ Kelly doesn't have a shot. He got an interview. And then other guys in there, Omar Khan, really, he's the guy who appears to be the next in line to take over the Steelers, VP of football operations. Ryan Poles, I think he's, obviously with the Chiefs. The thing about Ryan Poles is he's a New York native, and he's already in the final round of interviewing with the Giants. It almost seems like that's going to be where he ends up. And you know what? Good for him. If he's a fan of that team and grew up, a Giants fan. I don't know if he's Giants or Jets, but him being a New York native, you can almost bet that he was one of those guys. So if he goes back to his home state, good for him. And there's just a lot of guys in here that, Elliot Wolf, that would be, that would be a hell of a story too. Comes from a blue blood organization.
Morocco Brown's another one who's been getting a lot of support. He was with the Bears from 2001 to 2007, probably their best stretch of drafting that they've had maybe since the 80s. You got, Briggs, you got Tillman, you've got Tommy Harris. So he was around for when they were really doing well, and now he's doing well in Indianapolis, and he was with Cleveland for a period. He was with Washington when they got Trent Williams, among other, prospects. So he's got experience at finding really quality players. So I'm very impressed that the Bears are, interviewing him on top of Dodds as well.
And Morocco Brown's, just last thing there, Morocco Brown's expertise is offensive lineman.
Seems to be that way, yeah.
Seems to be that way. You mentioned Trent Williams, obviously what they've done in Indianapolis. Unfortunately, they had like 4 of their starters out, but that is a hell of an offensive line. And look, the Bears, based on towards the end of that season, we saw that obviously Sam Mustipher was a question mark. Cody Whitehair seemed to be losing his edge. James Daniels was kind of iffy towards the end. Right tackle, left tackle is still a little bit unsettled with what's going to happen with Larry Borum, who got beat up in that final game against the Vikings. Left tackle Tevin Jenkins, we don't know we don't know if he's going to be able to take that spot. So, while I do think those 2 tackles there are going to be bookends at some point, that interior is lacking talent and people under contract.
They need a center so bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. And so Morocco Brown would be an excellent addition. Even if it's someone like Ed Dodds that gets the job, if they come in and bring in Morocco Brown as like an assistant GM or something like that, you have some excellent, scouting now in your organization that can help you bring that offensive line, that toughness that you so desperately need on offense.
That's another benefit that casting this net so wide can actually have. You can gather information, not just on the guys that they're interviewing personally, but maybe, gauge interest in certain scouts around the league that might actually have, strong support. And maybe we can give this guy a promotion, bring him into our organization, stuff like that. So there's always a benefit to gathering as much information as possible.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's, a dozen head coaching candidates on this list. That could get bigger if the Bears choose to wait till the playoffs are over. If they do choose to go interview Josh McDaniels, I just don't see it happening. I never saw that happening. I think that they're going to go a different direction just because I think they have guys that they want to be more formidable in the team. And Josh McDaniels is known to ruffle feathers and things like that. So they might go out and give him an interview. Who knows? But I really think with Bill Polian advising McCaskey and Phillips, we were just getting into this. This was a hitting point in George McCaskey's press conference. It was almost like, well, I may not know what I'm doing, but Bill Polian does, and Bill Polian this, and Bill Polian that. But guess what, guys? He's right. Bill Polian knows a hell of a lot about football. He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He's won Super Bowls. This guy, he's 79 years old. He's been out of the league for a long time, and there's definitely question and cause for concern with, can he still evaluate talent? The answer is yes, because you know why? He's not just talking to McCaskey and Phillips about this. He's talking to guys around the league that he still knows and trusts around the league. You're not just a Hall of Fame executive chosen to do a random job. I'm confident that he's going to find the right GM. Head coach is a completely different scenario for me at this point. I think they're going to get a good GM. I'm worried about the head coach for right now. I just don't know how I feel about going, experience over hot new topic guy like Brian Daboll. I don't know how I feel about it yet. So.
Well, this is where you hope that they don't put their shoes on before their socks and, hire the head coach before the general manager. You hope they do this in order. You hope that the general manager then has input on the head coach, is involved in those interviews, knows what to ask for, understand, hey, how do you want to build this team? Those kinds of things, because that's going to be important. If you, especially with the Bears probably not willing to give full roster control to their head coach, it would make no sense to hire a head coach first. And I was a little bit nervous when I heard that from George McCaskey. Ideally we'd hire a GM, but if we see a head coach really how would you know?
I think that maybe means Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, guys who would
unless somebody, really blew them away in an interview and it's like, this is the guy we're looking for. We got to get him. But then it becomes a challenge of finding a GM that meshes with him.
Exactly.
And, obviously would be an improvement over what Pace was, which isn't easy, but it's been done. I mean, the Bills did it. They hired Sean McDermott first and then brought in Brandon Beane, shortly after that. So it can be done. It's just not as easy.
Didn't the Chiefs do that with Andy Reid too?
It was John Dorsey for a while, and then they just basically cut Dorsey loose and, promoted Brett Veach. So it wasn't really the same sort of situation where you're bringing both guys in at the same time.
Okay. So it's been done, but you're right. I agree, Drew. I think that a great piece in The Athletic this week obviously talked about past regimes having to fix garbage of past regimes, and that's going to happen in every organization. But the fact that it's the same thing revolving around the same positions is a cause for concern. And that leads me into this next topic is, will this new regime buy into Fields? And George McCaskey wouldn't answer that at the press conference. He didn't say whether that was going to be a hitting point. He was pushed on it by several reporters, and he just did not answer the question. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, they'd be stupid to trade Fields, and they're never going to trade him. He's got so much talent. Are they going to trade him? Probably not. But this is not clickbait. Like I keep seeing people commenting on your article, Eric, about this being, it's not clickbait. McCaskey did not answer this question. He said that we're going to look for the guy that we want. Justin is not going to be involved in this process. And that's why this is such a big point, because one, I said a month ago, that Fields needed to be involved in this process. I don't care if he's 22. He's the most important player on the field. This is what Aaron Rodgers got into a hullabaloo about with Green Bay in the offseason. Quarterbacks need to be involved in this. And I know he's young, and I'm not saying the buck should stop with him. But listen to this answer from George McCaskey and tell me that he's got 100% faith in number one.
Adam Johns?
Hey, George, to go back to Justin Fields a little bit, given the investment in him, giving up the first-round pick this year and whatnot, if a candidate says that he doesn't like him, doesn't want to keep him, wants to move on, would that automatically discount them or disqualify them from the position of GM or coach?
Well, I think I've said before, I don't entertain hypotheticals. We're interested in hearing what the candidates have to say about the development of the entire football organization, and especially the quarterback position. We want to know what their plan is to develop that position for us.
David Hall?
Or just to follow up on that, because I think that's a critical question. I think what we're asking is, it's not a hypothetical. If the candidate, you're a fan and you say that you like what you see in Justin Fields, but if somebody who is a football person that you're interviewing, a head coach candidate or a GM, has reservations about his potential, does that potentially disqualify that person from getting a job with you?
Well, I don't want to get into a semantics debate with you, but the first word of your question was if. That to me presents a hypothetical, and we don't know what the candidates have had to say because we haven't interviewed any of them yet. We want to know what their plan is for that position for the Bears.
Is thinking Justin Fields can be a franchise quarterback a prerequisite for either the general manager or the head coach of the Bears?
We want to know what their plan is for the quarterback position for the Bears.
Pat Finley?
Damn.
I mean, if you guys are just tuning in and you did not listen to our press conference, that was the biggest point, aside from the Arlington Park thing, which we'll touch on in a later show because the Bears really sound like they're moving there. That was the biggest news hitting point of that press conference. He did not commit to Fields at all there. That's not clickbait online. This is a legitimate thing. If you're the GM of this team and you don't think that Justin's the future, trade him. I'm going to be on that board, and I love Justin Fields, but I want a head coach and a GM to build the team they want so it's cohesive and it works. Period.
And this is the thing I pointed out in my article, that George McCaskey has been here before. He's been here multiple times. He saddled Mark Trestman with Jay Cutler. He saddled John Fox with Jay Cutler. And then he saddled Matt Nagy with Mitch Trubisky because he was trying to believe in the quarterback and trying to stay the course, which you understand. But at the same time, all of those situations ended up blowing up in his face. So it's like, okay, I understand Justin Fields has all this talent and all that, but I'm not going to force feed the next head coach and GM with Justin Fields down their throat. That's just not how it works. You look at Josh Allen, you look at Patrick Mahomes, it was all cohesive. Andy Reid, Brett Veach, all those guys were all in on Mahomes from the start. Same thing with Daboll, McDermott, Bean, all of them were all in on Josh Allen from the start. You can't say the same about whoever comes in. Now, if they're all in on Justin, great, fine. But if you think whatever the head coach, whatever the GM, if these are the best people for the job, 100%, and they're not completely sold on Fields, then you've got to give them a reason to plead their case why they should move on from Fields and find somebody else.
100%. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I know some people will say that there's, some teams made a mistake passing on Justin Fields in the draft, but there is a reason he fell down all the way to where he did, because some teams were not sold on his ability to outplay the potential of other players. And you can say it's a misevaluation on their part. You could say, oh, the Bears were duped. We don't know yet, right? But the reality is, if the Bears, meaning McCaskey and Polian and Phillips, are getting feedback from several candidates that say, we don't believe in Justin Fields, we think we can do better than Justin Fields, we don't want to commit to Justin Fields, you can't discount every candidate. Just you need to take that into consideration and be like, okay, well, clearly these guys are seeing something that I'm not, so maybe we have to start over. Maybe there's a team that's going to be willing to trade a first-round pick or 2 first-round picks for the remainder of Fields' rookie contract, and then we get to start over, and they can have Fields for the remainder of the time. You have to listen to that because, look, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are the ones who drafted Justin Fields. They were the ones who were all in on him. Now, is it possible that he has a lot of fans around the league and whoever they hire is all in on him, to Eric's point? Yeah, sure it is. And if that's the case, great. But you cannot limit your pool by only focusing on candidates that like Justin Fields, because that is not setting up the Bears for long-term success. Because the reality is, if Fields is not good, if Fields fails, then what do you have for you've built your entire team around taking advantage of Fields' rookie contract, and if he
you have
fails,
too much gray area when it comes down to wanting to fire guys.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't draft that guy. That wasn't my fault. Like, let them be the guys.
Let them be the guys.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
100%. We're all in agreement on that.
And look, I mean, Bears Twitter is gonna explode because he has. I mean,
they already have.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
99% of Bears Twitter is all in on Justin Fields, and sure, I mean, go for it. But look, I mean, this is the reality of football. Like not everybody agrees on or evaluates quarterbacks the same way, and there's very possible that someone like Brian Daboll doesn't believe that he can get the best out of Justin Fields, or someone like Josh McDaniels comes in and says, "Nah, Justin Fields, he's like Jay Cutler to me," or something else. Like you don't know until they and if they get that kind of feedback from several candidates, then they have to listen and they have to go along with whatever they're being advised to do.
No question about it. No question about it. So when we put out articles on our website that say his tenure with the Bears or his future with the Bears might be in jeopardy, it's not clickbait, people. Listen to the press conference and read the articles, please, and thank you very much. Let's get back to
in general. I just want to make a quick point about that. Read the fucking articles, people.
Seriously, read the articles.
Fucking articles.
I'm talking.
I know most of the comments are coming off just reading the title. I know they don't read the article, but it is what it is.
Like it's just I don't know.
You gotta read. You gotta read, and you have to listen to what these guys are saying. We just played the bite from George McCaskey. He said nothing about we are committed to Justin Fields in the future. They might not be. He might not be a Bear next year. We have to accept that. He's likely to be because he's a very valuable piece. But the ROI on Justin Fields is still a first-round pick, potentially more. It's not less than what it was, what they traded up to get him. It's still the same. So live with that fact. It's not solidified. If Brian Daboll comes in here and he's like, dang, Deshaun Watson and I coached him. I knew his dad in high school. I like him, and he's free on all charges, whatever. And he wants to bring him in. Damn, yeah. Like that's a very, very hypothetical situation. I know George McCaskey doesn't like hypotheticals, but that could happen.
I made that clear.
That could very well happen. Let's get back to the coaching search. We all picked our favorite GM and our favorite head coach right now. We went through this before the show started, and I personally will start with what I had. So I like Brian Flores, and I like Rick Smith. Rick Smith is a guy that I think could teach McCaskey along the way. I think that's my biggest thing is McCaskey's only, mid-60s? He's going to be around a long time. I don't know if he's going to outlast the next general manager regime, but the thing with Rick Smith is the guy is really, really smart. He knows how to do his job. He can teach McCaskey along the way. He's going to make McCaskey a better football mind. He's got 4 playoff wins. He's got an eye for talent, like Eric touched on in his article and talked about earlier. And I think pairing him with a guy like Brian Flores, who has ties to Rick Smith in that organization and ties to guys like Deshaun Watson, mobile quarterbacks. Yes, I know that he struggled this year, but he didn't have a quarterback. I know that they beat some bad teams and managed to find themselves getting close to a playoff spot but missing again this year. But if you go back and watch the nitty-gritty of football, Brian Flores is an aggressive head coach. He likes running the ball. He's got the best part about him is he has experience on all 3 phases. I was doing a lot of research on him. He's been a special teams guy. He's obviously known for his defense. He's got 4 Super Bowl rings going with the Patriots. He comes from guess what? Blue blood organization. Tattoo that on my forehead this show. Seriously. That's what makes him my favorite for this job right now. Brian Flores and Rick Smith, give me that all the way. I would be thrilled with those 2.
Look,
yeah, you
got real quick point, and not to play spoiler. I know Rick Smith was Eric's GM candidate as well, but Adam Hogue of NBC Sports made a really good point on Rick Smith. The fact that they are not going to be introducing an extra football decision maker layer in the organization, right? They're going to have the GM, going to have total control of football operations. They're going to report straight to George McCaskey, but that person's going to hire the head coach. And the level of accountability as it relates to football is only going to rely on that GM role. Who better than to hire somebody who has done this role before and done it really well, and literally been the VP of football operations in Houston in a guy like Rick Smith. If anybody knows what it takes to do this role, it's Rick Smith. And if you're going to be having that level of accountability stop at the GM position, then it's great that you have somebody that's done this role before and knows exactly what it takes. And that's Rick Smith. So now, while I didn't pick Rick Smith as my top choice, which we can get into here, but look, it was a very good point from Hogue, and I thought I'd bring it up is that's why it would be a very good hire, and you would have that level of experience and accountability that you just didn't have with Ryan Pace.
Well, the floor is yours.
Yeah,
Brian Daboll and Ed Dodds.
Yeah. Ed Dodds is my choice. I love what the Colts organization has done. They have built an outstanding football team. The offensive line, their defensive front, their linebackers, their running game is great. And I'm a passing guy. I mean, to me, the game revolves around the passing game. Chris Ballard took a chance on Carson Wentz and didn't seem like it went very well, but I do want them to improve their wide receiver room, but Ed Dodds is very, very highly thought of. He's an excellent talent evaluator. I love the toughness they have on their team. Nobody wanted to play that team in January. Like, they are lucky as hell that Carson Wentz imploded and they lost to the Jaguars, because holy shit, that team would have been a tough out in January. So look, excellent team, excellent evaluation. If he believes in Justin Fields and he believes that he can build around Justin Fields, then great. You already have your quarterback. You're not risking a Carson Wentz situation, and now you can go from there. So that's my thought on Ed Dodds. And then Brian Daboll, man, did his stock skyrocket over the weekend. I mean, holy moly, they did not, since the third quarter of their first matchup against Bill Belichick's Patriots. Since then, they did not punt. So that includes the second game in New England, and then this playoff game in Buffalo. They did not punt once.
Top 5 defense in the NFL this year, both sides of the ball, both Bills and Patriots. But that's,
top 5 defense. That they built that resume beating up on softies. But still, I mean, look, they're usually a well-prepared team. And Brian
Patriots
Daboll
did, or the Bills did? I meant the Bills did. I meant the Patriots defense top 5 too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they built that reputation beating up on softies. But still, I mean, look, they're usually a well-prepared team, and Josh Allen is probably the most dangerous weapon in all of football at this point, because holy moly, what he was doing was amazing. But Brian Daboll, man, I mean, excellent game plan. They learned their lesson from the first game, and they executed it to perfection the last 2 games. And what he's done with Josh Allen is remarkable. One thing I will say,
I just don't know. This goes back down to the experience thing. I'm just not sure having the best offense this year is a great, and that's the reason I'm hung up on Nathaniel Hackett too, is how much of this is just quarterback masking. That's my worry. I don't know how much of it is masking, and why wouldn't we just go with a guy with experience? I guess I'm not against Brian Daboll. There's far worse candidates out there. Leslie Frazier, no thanks. Kellen Moore, no thanks. But I guess I just need more convincing for both Daboll and Hackett, and I guess I'm missing part of it too. I'm just not sure I'm sold.
Sure. So my take on this is Daboll has been an offensive coordinator before at a different team. Didn't do well, came back, reinvented himself in Buffalo, has helped develop Josh Allen from a rookie who didn't look like he belonged on an NFL field to, like I said, arguably the most dangerous weapon in football today. Now, I will say that I honestly believe a head coach's influence on, during the season influence on developing a quarterback is a little bit overrated. I do believe they develop more so in the offseason on some of the work that they put in, working with offseason quarterback coaches and various things like that. During the season, it's all about game plans and football and building chemistry with your teammates. But look, I mean, the turnaround is tangible. Similar with Hackett. I mean, you look at Hackett and Matt LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers was not playing well in Mike McCarthy's first or last couple of seasons. I mean, that offense was, dare I say, bad. And then LaFleur comes in, Hackett comes in. And now Rodgers looks reborn to an extent. The offense is extremely well coached. They do not beat themselves. They execute really well. A lot of that's coaching, that's preparedness, and Hackett brings a lot of that. And if you want another example of where he's done that without Aaron Rodgers, he coached a top 10 offense with Blake Bortles as his quarterback in Jacksonville. So the guy's done this before, and he is highly, highly liked. So, I mean, both of those guys, when it comes to teaching offense, when it comes to preparing offense, when it comes to game planning, when it comes to adjustments, both coaches have shown the ability to do it in two places. And so that's where where my love for it. And Daboll probably my choice for Daboll for this show is probably just recency bias from over the weekend. I like Daboll, I like Hackett, I like McDaniels. Yeah.
So you would take that over a guy with head coaching experience already?
I'm open. I'm open to some. For example, Brian Flores. I'm open to Brian Flores. I'm open to.
I'm debating so much on how much of this is QB masking and things like this, and I guess I'm having, again, a little bit of recency bias for me too. Matt Nagy coming from the best offense in the league and just being terrible. I'm petrified of that happening again. I'm not saying it will, but I'm petrified of that happening again. And I know with guys like Brian Flores and if they went for, I don't know, Byron Leftwich or Todd Bowles, I know that wouldn't happen again. They guys with, guys who've been coaching top level defenders and top offenses for the last couple of years, I just would be less worried about it. I guess I'm more.
So real quick, so you're less worried about Leftwich with Tom Brady than Daboll with Josh Allen? I'm not trying to be like facetious.
No, and honestly, I'm just. Yeah, I am a little bit more worried about Daboll than just for the sole reason I just don't know how sustainable that offense is. He doesn't like to run the ball. They pass the ball 85-90% of the time. They didn't really figure out how to use a run, and it works. They use Josh Allen to the max, but I don't know if that's a sustainable. You gotta run the football to win in this league too. I know it's a passing league majority, but I think with Tampa's offense being way more balanced than the Bills' offense, I would have much more faith in Leftwich. But that's just me. I'd want to go for experience. I want a guy with head coaching experience. That's my preference. So, Eric, you had Daboll and Rick Smith, so take it away.
Well, you've already heard a lot of what I had to say about Rick Smith. It's not just that he's drafted good players over the years. He's drafted great players, Hopkins, Watson, given how their careers are going, you could make an argument that all three could end up in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. So, he knows how to find blue chip talent, which I think the Bears have really been lacking, especially on the offensive side. So that's a big reason why I'm, really in on him. Now with Daboll, one thing I always do with head coach candidates, I always look at is track record. A few things. Are they well-traveled? Have they been with multiple different organizations? And the reason I like this is because they learn from different coaching styles, what to do, what not to do. And for Daboll, that's definitely a case. He's worked with many different teams. And also, what coaches have you learned from? And when you look at his resume, you got Bill Belichick, you've got Nick Saban, and you got Sean McDermott. Those are three excellent head coaches that he's had a chance to learn from over the past several years. He's got Super Bowl rings. He's got a national championship ring. And now he's doing some of the best coaching work he's done in his career. And he's still pretty young, in his early 40s, I believe. So you throw all that together, it feels like he's ready. Like he's not, undercooked, like he's not raw like Nagy was. He's ready for his shot, and he's learned from a bunch of great people. And more importantly, everybody talks about the connection with Justin Fields, what he's going to be able to do for Justin Fields. And that's very important. Don't get that twisted. But also, the reason I paired him with Rick Smith is because their philosophies line up. If you look at Smith's track record of hiring head coaches, they're always from organizations that went deep into the playoffs and have offensive backgrounds. Gary Kubiak and Bill O'Brien. So I think Daboll would fit his philosophy really well of a guy who's going to be good for the quarterback, going to run a productive offense, and basically let Smith handle acquiring the talent for that offense, and then just find a defensive coordinator who can run the show. And, Daboll has connections everywhere around the league, which is another something that's important for building a staff. So all the things line up for him, despite being a first-time guy, being somebody who's more than ready for his opportunity, and that's why he's my number one guy.
Sure. You think that changes if the Bears do choose to go after a guy like Josh McDaniels after all is said and done? I know the Patriots are out now, so we haven't heard any other news on that, but he's expected to be a candidate. So do you think you would change and go back to Josh McDaniels should he become available, or do you think Daboll is going to be your guy?
Until I hear something different on McDaniels, I'm going with Daboll, but just because I really like his track record, I like his background, I like how he's improved over the past several years from where he was. He was struggling in Kansas City, in Miami, and then he sort of reinvented himself in Alabama, and he's been doing great work ever since. So he's gotten better. He's still young, and he doesn't have that stink that McDaniels does of what happened in Denver, and then the whole Colts fiasco, people questioning whether he's a leader or not. From everything you hear about Daboll, his players love him. They really follow him. They trust him with everything he tells them to do. So, I'm fine with either guy. I'm still a big believer in McDaniels as an offensive mind. He's proven he's good at finding a good staff and putting one together. So I'd be fine with either. But right now, until something changes on McDaniels, I'm going to go with Daboll.
And by the way, Brian Daboll was the coach when Mitch Trubisky took victory formation knees in a playoff game.
Coincidence?
Coincidence.
They did. I didn't watch the end of that game. I turned it off. Mitch took the kneel down. Really?
He took the kneel downs.
Good for Mitch.
Good for Mitch.
Honestly, we might. This is something to chew on.
Don't. If this is where you're. Oh no, Kevin.
I think Mitch Trubisky might be back in the NFC North, but not with the Bears. I think he might be a Vikings guy. The Vikings going to need a quarterback, and I think they might look into trading Kirk Cousins, especially with a new regime coming in. A lot of teams that need a veteran quarterback. The Steelers, for one, I think would be a guy to look at. You're not going to get a whole lot for Kirk with that contract, but the Vikings want to get younger. I think that's. I don't think. I'm not.
They have
just
Kellen
judging what Kellen
waiting.
Just judging off of what the last coach had to say about Kellen Mond doesn't sound like that's too promising. I don't know. Just keep an eye on it. Mitch is going to get maybe even the Browns too. I think the Browns are going to be exploring quarterback options this offseason. They did commit to Baker, but who knows? Mitch will get a shot somewhere. I'm not really sure where, but there'll be a team that will come calling for him. And Andy Dalton too. Same thing. Maybe he'll end up in Pittsburgh. A lot of moving quarterback pieces, but it appears to for us it's going to be interesting too.
Be a fun off season.
What?
Sure will. It'll be a fun off season.
Yeah. Speaking of, we're not quite at the off season total yet. We're watching some NFL playoffs right now, and I love the NFL playoffs. I think it's one of the greatest marketed events on television of the calendar year. I think they do a wonderful job with it every year. I think just the broadcast teams are great. I think just having, Super Wildcard Weekend. Now, I do want to say that this was a big debate on sports radio all day today and yesterday was, this competition was pretty watered down. It was, but at the same time, it wasn't, because there are some really, really dominant teams in the NFC that we knew were going to be this good, and the AFC just kind of being weak this year. I don't think it was because of the competition level. I enjoy the extra team in there. I think it gets another fan base involved, makes it a little bit more fun. And let's be honest, the Rams are the best team in the postseason right now. I know we haven't seen the Packers at full strength yet, but the Rams are the best team in this postseason. I'll argue.
The way the Bills are playing, they look like they might be the team to beat. Allen's on a heater. Their defense is number one in the league. Their running game has suddenly found themselves. So, I wouldn't ignore them.
Oh, I'm not. They got to go through. They got to go through Arrowhead next week. Oh boy, mm-hmm. I don't think that. I'll take the Chiefs.
I'll say this: if they get past the Chiefs, I think they're going to the Super Bowl.
Here's the reality, right? I mean, Kevin, to your point about watered down playoffs, I love the fact that they have an extra seed in an extra game. First of all, more football, and that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, the Bears might be there next year too, so that's another reason I'm endorsing it.
They're not far off. I mean, if you think about, for what it's worth, right? I mean, obviously, you have the Eagles, who are an embarrassment. The Bears probably they would have put up a better fight than that. But look, I mean, you think about the teams when you get to the playoffs. There are two things that will really determine whether or not you're a real playoff team, because scheme fades in the playoffs. So you either have a quarterback or you have physical toughness, that you're basically a force to be reckoned with, like the 49ers. Like that team and their identity, no one wants to play that team because they are tough. They will beat you up and beat you in a variety of different ways. Or you have a quarterback, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, those are the quarterbacks that Matthew Stafford, like those are the guys who moved on. Quarterbacks that have struggled and are not able to overcome or show that they're able to lift their own teams, like Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Ben Roethlisberger's corpse. Like,
Prescott.
Say that again?
Prescott.
Yeah, Dak. I mean, these guys who are
what happened to Dak?
Who are not able to overcome, who are not able to lift when their scheme fades, those are the quarterbacks that go home. So this is why and this is why a team like Indianapolis would have been dangerous, because again, kind of like the 49ers, tough, physical, they'll wear you down. So those are the two identities that'll take you far in the playoffs: a quarterback or toughness and physicality. And a lot of the teams didn't have that ended up seeding for a spot in the playoffs. Hopefully teams are able to build and more quarterbacks are able to take that spot next year, because we as fans in the NFL, we need more quarterbacks to be good, to be transcendent, and we don't have enough of those in the league. But look, I mean, it kind of showed you. I mean, look at all the teams that got eliminated. All of those teams either weren't tough enough or they didn't have a quarterback.
It's a common denominator every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the toughness is a big thing, and if you can physically punish people on and win the line of scrimmage, obviously that's a big part of it. But you need a quarterback, plain and simple. Kyler Murray, are we done? Are we off the Kyler Murray train? I mean,
I was off that a long time ago.
I was off it. Yeah. Come on, guys. What are we doing here? I know he's fun, and I know he's super fast and he's athletic, but he's not a good quarterback. I don't know how many times, he was nothing before they got DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins makes him look at his receiving core and his running backs. He's got some of the best pass-catching running backs in the league, and he's got a great defense that takes the ball. Sorry. We're done with the Kyler Murray thing. It was never, and they don't have a good coach either, for that matter. But look, I still like Dak Prescott. I think he's really good. I think that they just, their defense and some of the play calling towards the end. I think Mike McCarthy is a huge liability, has been for a long time. We got an eye line view of him for years here in the NFC North. And also, he had injuries on that side of the ball. Zeke is just not running as well as he has been. I still believe in Dak. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think he's back half, probably 9 or 10, but I still think he's good. Stafford, but look, Stafford, Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Those are your best quarterbacks this year. All of those guys. And I think you throw Justin Herbert in there too. He missed the postseason, but those guys I just named are the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Point blank, sign it, period, send it in. That's why they're there. Oh, and by the way, the Bears had to play 6 games against those 5 teams this year. So,
and they beat one of them.
And they beat the Bengals, and that's why you were saying they might not be far off. But no, the Rams are the best team in the postseason right now. I think they're going to win the NFC, and I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. And I've been on that before the year started, and I'm sticking with it. I think it's going to happen. Who do you guys got? Who do we have?
Hey, man, looking at it, this NFC postseason isn't exactly shaping up, to favor the Packers, because I think there's 3 teams right now that have a chance to beat them that are still in the playoffs. I mean, the 49ers, who they're going to play this coming weekend, and then the Bucs, who beat them last year, and then the Rams, who almost beat them, in the regular season, had a shot to. So I think all 3 of those teams can beat the Packers. Everyone's favoring the Packers, obviously so, because they had a great year. Aaron Rodgers is still playing out of his mind. They're getting some guys back healthy. So you look at it, they've got home field. So, yeah. But at the same time, we've seen this before. We've seen the Packers come in with a great record, and then they find a way to choke it away before even reaching the Super Bowl. So I have no reason to trust that they're going to somehow break through this time, considering their team really isn't all that different from the team they were last year. In fact, I think the team last year was better than their team this year, but that's just my opinion. Whereas the Rams, they're hot, they're getting hot, they're playing their best football yet, and the Bucs, they're banged up, but it's still Tom Brady. You really can't bet against him. And Kyle Shanahan has really had the Packers number. I think he beat him twice in 2019, and he
Rodgers has never beat Shanahan, I don't think. So
he did. He beat him earlier this year, but it was a close game.
Oh, that's right.
Last second field goal, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So the Niners know they can beat the Packers. They have no reason to fear Green Bay. Now, that doesn't mean Green Bay won't win because they're at home and whatnot, but still, I'm not crowning the Packers for anything considering where they've been the past several years. They can't seem to close the deal. Aaron Rodgers can't seem to close the.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Eric?
Sounds like we lost Eric. We'll get him back in a second here. I just did want to point out that he's on a really good point there, and that's because, listen, the Packers are going to beat the 49ers, but it's not going to be because Kyle Shanahan didn't call a good game. It's going to be because the Packers are taking the ball away, and Jimmy Garoppolo loves to turn the ball over. He's got the Carson Wentz syndrome. He's got take it away syndrome. That's what that guy does. And apparently, Kyler Murray has that too. If you watch that interception, good God. But listen, the 49ers aren't going to beat the Packers at Lambeau. It's not going to have. The Packers have been arguably the best home team in football for the past 3 seasons. They're going to win that game. But between the Rams and the Bucks, I'll take both of those teams right now over Green Bay. And that's not bias coming from me. I'm taking a more complete roster in the Rams, and I'm going to take Tom Brady and his playoff experience and wanting to show that he's better than Aaron and stop with this debate. I'm clearly the best of all time.
And he also won.
He's going to beat him again. What's that?
Yeah, and he won at Lambeau last year. Like he already did this. And look, while I'm very excited for the Rams-Bucks matchup this weekend, I'm also sad that it's the divisional round matchup and not the NFC championship matchup where I think it should be, because look, I mean, those are 2 exceptional quarterbacks. It's going to be a fun game. I think honestly, the 49ers have a good chance to go into Lambeau and win, because while it might be, Lambeau Field, cold weather, January, that team is built to go in and win with their physicality, with their toughness and their running game and the schemes that Shanahan deploys. Look, the Packers' strength on defense is their secondary. And if you can avoid having Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball, too often because you have an excellent running game, that's good. Have Deebo Samuel run it, 20 times because the guy is fucking unstoppable.
He's ridiculous, dude.
Ridiculous. Absolutely insane. There's no answers for him anywhere. So, yeah, I mean, the 49ers absolutely have a chance to go in there and win. But even if they don't, right? I mean, the winner of the Rams-Bucks game, it'll be fascinating to see them go in. If they have to go to Lambeau, both quarterbacks have played and had success at Lambeau Field. Obviously, Stafford with his experience in the NFC North, Brady being Brady. I mean, it'll be – the NFC playoffs are fascinating. AFC, it'll be fun, but
I'm rooting for the Bengals. I'm rooting for the Bengals. I would love to see Joe Burrow just come – the reason I want to see Joe Burrow do well is – one, I really like him. I've always have. I thought he was awesome in college. I'm not a college football fan, and I loved that LSU team. But I want the Bengals to do well to show Bears fans how quickly things can change with a good quarterback in this league. The NFL is not like Major League Baseball. You can be terrible in the NFL and make the playoffs the next year. You can be terrible and go win a Super Bowl in the next year or two. It's possible. You just need a good quarterback. And I know that the Bears won't have the offensive firepower the Bengals do, but I want to see the Bengals do well because it shows Bears fans that there's hope, that you just have to believe in having a good quarterback that's a proven winner. Joe Burrow got hurt. People was like, oh, I don't know. He didn't have a great rookie year. He got hurt, and I don't know if he's ever going to be the same. And he comes back in there, and he's showing what he does now. And look what we could see. We could happen with Justin Fields. Like, same thing could happen. Had a terrible rookie year. Comes back, lights the world on fire, and all of a sudden, same thing. People are looking at the same storylines. He won in college. He's got a career pedigree. He's, calm, cool, collected dude and a leader. That's why I want the Bengals to do well in the AFC. Just for Bears fans to step off the ledge and realize that you can be bad and you can come off a couple years of piss-poor offense, but you can go out and win football games with a good quarterback. So I'm rooting for the Bengals. But you're right. The NFC playoff picture much more interesting right now to me. Eric, you're back. What happened?
I am.
Lost
Somebody
the
put a
internet?
hit out on me. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Who was it? Was it
Honestly, you
Was
can
it
pick
Bears
many
Twitter?
was it Bears
W-
Twitter?
Was it Bears Twitter saying like, how can you say Justin Fields is going to be traded?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they probably, pooled their money and, sent somebody after me.
All right, so who do we got
Surprised it
this
took
weekend?
long, honestly.
I'm taking the Rams and the Packers this weekend. Who do you guys got?
Ooh.
What are the games again? Sorry.
Rams, Bucks, Packers versus Niners.
I'll take the Rams, and I'll actually take the Niners in an upset.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Okay, and then the AFC, we got Bengals and Titans, and then we have Chiefs and Bills. That Chiefs-Bills game gonna be awesome.
Be awesome.
I'll take the Chiefs, and I'll take the Bengals. What do you guys think?
I'll take the Bengals. I think they got the advantage at quarterback. I love Mike Vrabel. I love the way he coaches that Titans team, but I just think the advantage at quarterback is clearly in the Bengals' favor, and they've got some momentum building after their win against the Raiders. So I'll take them. And I think I want to take the Bills, man. I think they're red hot. I think they learned their lessons from the last time they played the Chiefs last year in the playoffs. Their defense is playing great. Their offense is playing better. So, I'm going to take them to knock off Pat Mahomes and company at Arrowhead.
That'd be an impressive win.
I didn't get to give my NFC game, so I'm going to pick all of them right now. As much as I would love to see Stafford win another one, I'm going to pick the Bucks in this one because betting against Brady is just, it's
Did
like
you see
saying
that stat of how many playoff wins he has?
Oh God, it's just ridiculous.
I can't.
Isn't it like
I can't,
35?
I think it was 36 after Sunday or after whenever they played Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, I think he's got 36 playoff wins.
He's absurd.
That is silly. That is silly.
It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. I mean, the greatness, just the great. It is. The guy is 44.
Yeah, and he should win it. And he should win MVP this year too.
Yeah,
I think it'll go to Rodgers, but yes, he should win. Considering the injuries that the Bucks have had to deal with all year.
44.
Yeah,
it's mind-boggling. Just ridiculous. So
you have the Bucks winning the Super Bowl. Then it sounds like you're not going to bet against Brady at all. You got the Bucks winning the Super Bowl.
So what I had at the beginning of the season was Bills over Bucks. This is the
Nice.
beginning of the season. I am thinking about this one, but right now for this weekend, I'm going to take the Bucks. I'm going to take the 49ers as an upset. I'm going to take the Titans, and I'm going to take the Bills.
Okay.
And why I take the Bills? Just for the Bills, straight up, just give me Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. It's that simple.
This year or in general?
In general. I think moving forward.
Okay.
I think he's been unlocked to that point.
Big hot take from Drew there. Nice.
Yeah, that's real hot. I mean, it's not a bad one.
I've already picked Herbert over Mahomes.
Oh no, if you're comparing talent, they're pretty close. They're as close as you can get. It's just Mahomes has a bad tendency to have these stretches where he looks terrible, and then he just sort of flips a switch and throws 5 touchdowns in 11.
Josh Allen just does more with less. I mean, I am curious to see Mahomes without, if they can get all their guys back. I mean, that's going to be an interesting point. Look what Josh Allen's doing with shit running game, and he's got Stephon Diggs and a bag of chips. 30-something-year-old Emmanuel Sanders and anti-vaxxer Cole Beasley. I mean, come on, you got a bag of chips in that.
I like their tight end. I think they got a good tight end, and
Dawson Knox.
I think he's underrated.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Bills. I had Bills and Rams as my Super Bowl, and the Rams winning this year. So I don't know, man. I love Pat. I love that Chiefs team. They're the team I root for when the Bears are bad. I know it sounds classic, just roots for a winning team. Nah, man, I love Pat. I think he's great. Bengals are getting there for me, but
for me, I've been a fan of Andy Reid for many years because my dad is from Philadelphia. So when he was the Eagles coach, my dad was always cheering for that team. And I loved the way Andy coached that team. And then when he went to Kansas City, I've always liked Kansas City. I'm a big fan of their uniforms, and the fact that they hadn't won in a while, I always cheer for the underdog type of team. And so when he got there and he started elevating them to that status, I was a big supporter, and I still am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. I'll go over mine again. I'll take the Rams. I'll take the Packers, and I'll take the Chiefs, and I'll take the Bengals in this divisional round. And hopefully, I just it's best time of year. I love the NFL postseason. Actually, I take that back. That was a bad take. Not the best time of year. Best time of year is like October when everything's starting to kick on. MLB playoffs and NBA season. Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Come on,
But
man.
one
We
of my
all know it's
favorite-
draft season, April. Let's go.
yeah, I do love the draft too. I also saw today. I thought Jacob Infante tweeted out that the Bears were projected to take David Bell from Purdue, so that would be pretty cool at 39.
I'll take it.
Yeah. What did I say? What's my off-season plan? Can you guys remember it? Remember it on the whiteboard. Draft a wide receiver, trade for a wide receiver, sign a wide receiver. 3 new faces. I don't care. I do care who they are. I don't care how you get them. Figure it out. 3 new faces. Draft, trade, sign. Go out and get Calvin Ridley. That would be sweet.
One guy that I think might come cheap, surprisingly, is going to be Christian Kirk.
Oh, man. I've been a fan of
done.
his since Texas A&M.
He's outstanding. Shocked. He's outstanding. And, I mean, honestly, like, this sounds sad, I think his value is probably dropped playing with Kyler and how bad he's been recently.
Yeah,
so the Cardinals have never utilized him correctly. Yeah. I mean, his skill set is perfect for the slot. I can only imagine what he would have done with Brady back when he was with, back in New England. My God, he would have put up ungodly numbers. So I think he's going to land with a team and he's going to, thrive. I think he's going to be so much better.
Yeah, I 100%. Do too. I'm interested to see where Allen Robinson will end up. I think he'll end up with Bill Belichick out in New England. I could definitely
follow the quarterbacks. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think he spent enough of his career with not good ones.
Yes. Yeah. This is what I'm saying.
There you go. Go out and find yourself a good coach. And quarterback. All right, we'll take your questions, guys, on the Club Dub podcast here as we wrap up before we get out of here. Also, programming notes. We'll have a show probably. We'll do one next week. I know we were off for a couple of weeks there. We'll for the off season. I think our best point of view or our best point of action for you guys would be a show once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. We haven't really figured that out yet. I would say whatever you guys.
Or when news breaks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll definitely be on at least once a month, probably twice a month will be our postseason thing. And also, another thing to note, Devin Hester, the voting is done. We will know about his Hall of Fame officially on February 10th. So that'll be right after the Super Bowl. Yeah. And we'll obviously have a show for that when he gets in. Sorry, I just used my wrong hand. That's Derek Lee. That's Devin Hester. Derek Lee, Devin Hester. But I got confused with my camera and all that. Anyway, we take your questions here on the Club Dub podcast. I want to start out with this massive one from Dan, who sent this in early. I don't know if you're still listening, Dan. I hope you are. What makes fans believe this outcome will be different from the last 3 times? Nothing, absolutely nothing. As long as McCaskey is hiring, we're doomed. He admitted he doesn't know that much about football. Why do you own a football team? Listen, this is a great – I'm not going to read the rest of it because this is Bears Twitter, and you have every right to say this. And I touched on this early on in the show. I'm going to get rid of it because it's blocking Eric there. But we shouldn't have any faith in this. But the reason we do is because they have a guy named Bill Polian helping them with this search. I know Bears fans have heard this before, but guess what? Bill Polian, guy knows what he's doing. Okay, let's just let him do his job. Look at the list of candidates he's put together. We're going to get a good general manager. I'm pretty confident in that. Head coach is a different story, but I'm feeling really good about the GM at this moment in time.
And I'll say this, a lot of people were saying the same exact stuff about Michael McCaskey for the longest time. He was, flubbing head coaching picks and GM, choices. And eventually he got it right with Jerry Angelo and Lovie Smith. They were a great tandem, led us to a lot of winning seasons. So if he could do it, I don't see why George, can't do it either. He's learned a lot from his mistakes. And, hiring Bill Polian, like you said, was a great step in the right direction. And more than anything else, the law of averages says he's going to get it right eventually. So, why not this time?
Why is there Fields trade rumors?
I think we covered that.
George McCaskey. Because of George McCaskey. He didn't answer. Don't call Eric's article clickbait. Wasn't clickbait. George McCaskey did not
just
answer.
That. It's that a new regime is coming in, and with a new regime, there comes uncertainty. You can't really call any
Right.
players safe. So that's
Well, you
pretty
can
much the
if
reason.
you're the Bears because they've been doing that with quarterbacks for the past decade. But yes,
True enough.
you're right, and you should not saddle the new general manager if they don't like Fields, they don't like Fields. We got to live with that. You want full on uniform decisions at Hallis Hall. No more garbage. If they don't want Fields, they don't want him. His ROI is still high. You're still going to trade back into the first round if you get rid of him, and that's how that's going to go. Flores or Daboll. We covered this one too. I'm a Flores guy. They're both Daboll guys. When will this process be over? Geez, Matt, I know you got a lot of time on your hands now that you're not coaching, but a lot of questions from Matt Nagy today. Twitter, Matt Nagy. I don't know. I think we'll have an answer before the Super Bowl, though. I would bet.
On the GM front, at least, I would say probably towards the end of this week is when you're going to start seeing some, momentum towards, maybe at least getting second interviews with guys. So head coach, I think, is going to take longer because I do believe they want to get the GM in place first before they make a decision at head coach.
I just saw
real
too from
quick.
Bears Twitter that Elliot Wolf completed his interview today for GM.
Yep.
So there's another one on that list.
What are you guys' thoughts on Flores? We already covered that, so please go back and listen. If you would like to hear from Kevin on why Brian Flores.
He's coached in all three phases. That's why I like him. He's done it all, and he's got 4 Super Bowl rings, and he comes from a blue blood organization in the New England Patriots.
I just wanted to bring this up because I think the idea is brilliant.
You're the only one who thinks that.
I am so here for that.
He's just here for the sound bites is what he wants.
Yeah,
no
I
thanks.
would love this. Can you imagine some Jay Cutler mic'd up as a quarterbacks coach?
I just wonder what he would teach. What would he teach?
I swear to God, if he smokes a cigarette while mic'd up, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Be like, where's my light?
Tim Del Porto. Why is Ted Phillips still there? And go get McDaniels. Phillips is here. His new role is to negotiate the deal and plan for Arlington Park. That's his sole job at this moment in time. Yes, he's still in the interviews because he's negotiating the contracts. That's a pretty big part of the interview too. You don't want to cheap yourself out like you did, like we've seen the Bears do in the past with guys like Nick Saban. But Ted Phillips is still there because the Bears are moving to Arlington Heights. They are going to move there. They bought that plot of land. They haven't made anything official yet, but they are focused on building an entire entertainment district down in the suburbs, and they're going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. And that's what Ted's doing right now. We keep hearing from the Bears blog and Jeff Hughes that he's going to retire after next year. We'll see. I don't know. Jeff's had great sources on this stuff, but I think he's there just to. His baby right now is to deal with Arlington Heights. That's it. That's why he's still in the organization. Any other questions here? We got.
Are we keeping Nick Foles? I think they probably will. I think the contract makes sense. Yeah.
Both because he likes it here and the state of his contract, you could cut him, but it would still be a pretty hefty dead money hit. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept him as a really high quality backup.
Yep.
Yes. Love this question. Yes to both. Mike Williams is awesome. He's really fast. He's a little bit on the older side from what I remember, but he's awesome.
Also, this is true. He's got somewhat inconsistent hands, but he makes big plays. And also he brings a dimension that they're kind of missing, which is a big body receiver. And, I think they really need something to help complement Darnell Mooney's speed. And, he's a bit undersized. So I think Mike Williams would be a nice complement to that.
Yeah, he's 6'4". Actually, he's not old. He's only 27. I thought he was closer to 30. So that's on me. But
he's been around a while, so he was probably really young when he was drafted.
Would absolutely love Mike Williams in Chicago. That's a great question, AU fan. Thank you for that one. Yeah, he's probably a top 5 free agent wide receiver going into this year. I mean, when we think about it, it's
especially given the injuries that have been happening lately.
Yeah, Chris
Godwin. You got Robinson. You got Mike Williams.
Chris Godwin was one.
He's got the knee.
I guess technically Antonio Brown.
Absolutely not.
Jamison Crowder's probably underrated.
Jamison Crowder.
DJ Chark. There's some decent guys out there.
So yeah, I'm all in for that. Oh, and obviously Devonte Adams too. So
I think we can all pretty much guess he's going to stay in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think they'll give him the franchise tag. That's probably where that's going.
That would be my guess.
That's where that's going.
Probably.
Oh, sorry. Did I take away that one?
You did. I'd like that question.
Wait, where was it again?
What's your worst possible outcome?
Bill Polian hires himself. He goes, you know what, George? I don't like any of these guys. I'm the guy. You choose me. I'm going to run this organization. 79-year-old Bill Polian, who wrote a book, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Oh, yeah, I heard.
George
Yeah.
McCaskey plugging the book during the that would be hilarious. I love that comment. Yeah.
George does not do press conferences.
The Patriots are nowhere to be mentioned in that book, by the way.
Did you
The
read
Patriots who had Tom Brady about, building a Super Bowl team, whatever the fuck that was.
I think that's
book?
Bill's sort of
Mhm.
competitive bias sort of sneaking in there. All those battles his team had with the Patriots.
How you build a Super Bowl team, have Tom Brady on your team, profit. That's it. That's the book. I just summarized it.
Basically have a quarterback and profit.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh man, was it a good book? Did you like it?
I didn't read it.
I thought you said you read it.
Actually, Pat Finley read
Notes?
it, and he provided some details, and it sounds like a good book. So the guy is a Hall of Famer for a reason. People should not ignore this.
Agreed.
Right. I mean, we make fun of him now for being 79 and being hired by the McCaskeys, but the guy wasn't worthless. I mean, he built some good teams, and look, he beat the Bears in the Super Bowl. Obviously that's going to be a big one. So, I mean, he's 79 now. The hope is, the hope before they started announcing all these candidates was, has he kept up with the game? He's 79. He's been retired for a while. Does he still know how to evaluate with respect to today's game? And I can't complain about the list they have. So
yeah,
good work, Bill. Good.
Yeah, I wonder what he's getting paid to do this.
Probably not a lot, but enough to get him through the offseason and
think
get
they're giving
everything
him a
squared away.
six-figure check?
And don't forget, he was the leader of that AAF league that unfortunately went defunct. So he's been involved in football, even though maybe not directly with the NFL most recently. So you also can't deny that he has a ton of connections around the league, not just in Indianapolis and Buffalo where he worked, but a lot of people who worked under him in those locations still have jobs all around the league, which is probably why you're seeing a lot of these unexpected candidates, get interviews with the Bears.
Why are they doing all of this work on coaches before they hire a GM, Brooks Stott? It's due diligence. Every team does it the same way. They aren't going to. I don't think they're going to hire a head coach before a GM. We're going to get the GM first, unless we get a bombshell Adam Schefter tweet tomorrow morning that says Sean Payton is expressing interest in coming home and joining the Bears. I think that's why that was said, or Jim Harbaugh, one of those big proven head coaches that would come in and have success and change the culture instantly. I think that's why you got to do your due diligence, and that's why they're doing all the work. So no need to fear on that. We're going to get a GM first. The GM will pick the coach, at least have a pretty big say in it from what we're seeing. Let's see. Guess on Roquan not making the Pro Bowl.
Travis,
I feel bad for his wallet. He gets paid more for being in the Pro Bowl. I mean, he's a top 3 linebacker in the league. Should absolutely be in the Pro Bowl. Should have been first team.
I wouldn't worry. He's about to get paid pretty well.
Yeah, but you get more for these accolades. It's going to be tough. When you go down and look at the Hall of Fame later on in your career, and you notice that the Pro Bowl, all those things really play heavily. You can't remember individual plays from every single season, so I think that's going to negatively affect his chances later on. So I do feel bad for Roquan. He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it sucks, and the fact that a lot of the voting is driven by fans and fans voting is stupid. Trayvon Diggs at cornerback.
Okay, he deserved it, but he gave up a lot of yards, but he had a lot of
You can't
picks.
get past the stats. 11 interceptions is going to get you in the Pro Bowl.
Yes, but there's a reason he has that many opportunities, because he blows in coverage.
Well, it's because they keep throwing at him because they know it's just he's done a great job this year getting his hands on the football. So
it's just one of those.
But my guess is they're going to keep throwing at him.
Of course, and as they should. And so it's just one of those things where you look at and again, a lot of this is a popularity contest. He plays for the Dallas Cowboys. I know the question's about Roquan Smith, but similar. I mean, you look at Fred Warner, you look at some of the other guys who were voted in. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, does Roquan deserve to be
Campbell? Come on, he had a good year too, but give me a break. Roquan was better than Devonte Campbell. Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, it's It sucks. It's a travesty, but unfortunately, there's not much. There's not much that can really be done about it. And hopefully, the Bears do right by him and give him the nice hefty contract he deserves this offseason.
This was when I was asking what Bill Polian was getting paid. Matt Nagy commented $15, as in the Olin Kreutz fiasco. That was pretty
That's
pretty
another
crazy.
one.
Olin Kreutz claiming he was paid $15 an hour, offered $15 an hour to be an assistant offensive line coach, and George McCaskey calling him a liar in front of the Bears beat, and that was bad. That was
messy.
not a good look. Whether we don't know the whole truth or not, but I tend to believe Olin. But oh well, we're not going to touch on that anymore. That's old news. It's over and done with now on our end. Well, let's see. Let's do one more here. We got a couple good ones. How about Bill O'Brien and give him roster control? Nothing can go wrong.
Hey, we're talking about Rick Smith earlier. Just hire Rick Smith as GM, and then, hey, Bill O'Brien, here you go. Come back.
Next college coach to jump to the NFL that isn't Harbaugh.
That's a fun question.
Ryan Day?
No, I don't think he's going to leave Ohio State ultimately. I think he likes it there. It's a sweet setup. I think Matt Campbell from Iowa State is one to watch. Mm-hmm. He's gotten a lot of interest, and if he continues to have success there, I think he might actually make the jump.
Now, what about Pat Fitzgerald to the Bears?
No,
I'm just kidding. The rumor every year. I think Pat wants to be the coach. No, he doesn't.
As a Northwestern fan, I can advise that the Bears don't do that.
I always forget you went to.
And I like Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's a good coach for college. I think he's a great coach for college. Has done a lot with. What's that?
Dude has it made there. He can make all the mistakes in the world and still get a contract extension. He got a 10-year contract extension.
He has a lifetime contract for the most part. Yeah, I mean it's. He and look, he lives in a coaching in Evanston. It's not a bad gig. I don't see why he should leave it.
I agree, totally agree, and I don't think he's going to take a lot of money for him to do that. He's certainly not going to come coach the Bears. I think he's an Evanston lifer. Just being, and I work at GN, which has all those games, and hearing him talk after every game, he loves being there, man. I genuinely think. It's not like that fake Brian Kelly BS. Oh, I love Notre Dame. God, country, Notre Dame. Oh, see you guys. No, I genuinely think Pat Fitzgerald loves his program and he's not leaving. So, yeah, all right. So, Matt Campbell, getting back to the question, Matt Campbell. Okay. Yeah, I could see it. I don't watch college football that much. I don't really know. So, I don't have a good answer for that. Drew, do you have anybody?
I was thinking about Ryan Day, but it's a good point. Matt Campbell could be another one. Maybe even Lincoln Riley at some point. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he got quite the bag from USC, but yeah, we'll see. Want to end the show today. Jason Bulvis with a really good comment here. Buivis. Les Grobstein passing away. Obviously, I don't know how much you guys listen to sports radio, but I love the Score. I love radio. I work in radio. I work with, those guys I don't know them personally, but we play in a softball league together. We're distant colleagues, and I just entered the Chicago market in April, so still kind of getting acclimated. But I love Les Grobstein. I worked a lot of overnight shifts my first few years in radio, and the guy was it was a comforting voice, and I know he's got a past where some people don't appreciate everything that he did. And, obviously he wasn't perfect. He did make mistakes, but the guy, if you listened to him and his show and his fans calling into his show, he was a friend to everybody. And it was this voice of comfort. And it was always fun and a lighthearted show. It was just, you could call in and you could talk, you could just be talking about the Bears in the middle of March. And then you could just jump right to the Cubs. I mean, those are the types of questions, and he got all the same callers every night. The same. I mean, my heart breaks for them, his family, his colleagues. Rest in peace, Grobber. It really is sad that I won't be able to hear that voice. I love overnight radio, and I love sports radio, and this was a monumental loss for us in the media industry here in Chicago. So, just thinking about him and his family today. Died way too young at the age of 69. So
right there with you, man. Likewise, love sports radio. I regretfully did not listen to a lot of overnight radio recently. Definitely more so in my earlier career. Les Grobstein, yeah, I mean, he was a voice that I love listening to at 2 a.m. on a drive back home or whatever it was. And
just comforting
for sure. And could talk about anything, encyclopedic knowledge of the randomest things. And it was honestly a joy. And I do regret I didn't listen to a lot of it recently, but I mean, the overnight market is a niche group. I mean, it's a niche group that listens. Obviously, people that work that shift generally are listening to it. Very, very loyal listeners. I thoughts are definitely with them who've lost probably a source of comfort that they use to get through their days and, shorten their shifts or whatever it is. And like to your point, Kevin, voice of comfort. So certainly a tough loss, especially so soon after Jeff Dickerson. Been a tough 2022 so far for Chicago fans and Chicago media.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm really just gonna miss. Like I still have to get up sometimes and get to GN at 4 a.m. sometimes 3, and I have the score on, and I know people be like, "Oh, it's a competitor." Yeah, but I love sports radio, man. I love Chicago radio, and like I am really, really dreading turning on and listening to syndicated CBS sports radio programming. Nothing against those guys, but we're New York, WFAN and WSCR 670 The Score are the only 2 stations in the country to do overnight local live programming. And I'll be honest, that doesn't pay a lot. Nobody's going to step in and want to do that and be as good as what Les was. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe they'll go out and try and find somebody. I hope they do. But it's got to be somebody who is willing to work for pennies, because it's not a lot of money and it's a tough gig, man. Those are hard hours. It just sucks in every way, and I'm really disappointed, and I'm just hoping the best for his listeners and his friends. But anyway, you got the Club Dub podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Obviously, we'll have a show probably next week talking about more playoff stuff. We had a good successful one today. Talked a lot of GM and head coaching stuff. I'm a Flores guy. These guys are Daboll guys at the time, so we'll see. We should get a GM decision here relatively soon. I'm really waiting on these next couple interviews. Still got to do a couple, but hopefully in the next couple weeks we'll have our answer. We'll have a new regime. And you know what? Root for the Bengals, guys. You know why? Because the Bengals are going to show you that the NFL turnover, you can win in this league after being bad for so many years. Bengals had the longest playoff drought in 30 years, didn't win a game. They got a quarterback. They got a good head coach, a good offense. Look at that. Turned it around pretty quickly. So Bears can do the same thing.
I think the Bengals are going to win a Super Bowl at some point soon. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I'm a huge believer in Joe Burrow. I think he's going to get them a Super Bowl, in a short period of time over the next couple of years.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of physical talent in that sense, like not a rocket arm, doesn't have he doesn't have like the Josh Allen type of athleticism, but man, that guy's got something. It's something else. It's fun to watch between the
ears, man. You can just see it.
Calm, cool, collected. Nothing rattles him. I mean, it's we use these comparisons so loosely, but it really is almost kind of Brady-like. I mean, trust me, no one is on Brady's pedestal. No one ever will be. But you see that just like nothing.
I said that same thing in that game. He looks like Brady. He's making Brady decisions. I said it too.
So cool, calm. And moxie is this like marketing term, but fuck, man, like it's true. Like it's just it describes him to a T.
I think poise is a better word to use in those situations, but you get the point.
Yeah, big time.
Well, we went a little long today. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Who's it going to be? Lots of candidates out there. Go ahead and leave some comments. Give us follows. You see our Twitter handles in the bottom left-hand corner. For Juve and Eric, I'm Kevin. We are the Club Dub podcast presented by SportsMockery.com. We'll be back at it again next week. Enjoy the NFL postseason, guys. It really is one of the fun times of the year. And you know what? Let's root for that 49ers team. Hopefully they knock off that team from up north. But we'll talk to you guys next week. You got the Club Dub podcast.